It's Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and today I'm going to make a more associate-facing video about how to get compensated if you are an associate in a practice for your Invisalign cases. And I've made another video backwards that was more for, you can search it, I'm trying to remember the keywords because I have about 8,000 videos, but I think if you look up Invisalign, associate within my channel and that little magnifying glass, it should pop up. That was more for the owner doctor's perspective because I've been on both sides of it. I've been the associate, my husband's been the associate. I've worked with doctors who are the associate on their cases, but we've also been the owners where we're paying associates to do it, and it's really different when you're on the other side, let me tell you. So taking that aside, listen to the other one first. Listen to the owner's perspective, because I think as an associate, if you understand some of the stuff they're going through, maybe you'll be more flexible. Now, gotta keep in mind that Invisalign or any type of ortho is the long haul. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's unlike any other dental procedure where either you can get paid in stages, like an implant. Somebody is going to place the implant. That's a 1 or 2 step procedure that's done very, within a few weeks. And then there's a healing abutment step, and then there's a, then there's a restoration step. So these are 3 distinct endpoints where you could get paid, right? Everything else, like a crown, yeah, you're gonna prep, you're gonna deliver a couple weeks, right? A bridge, you're gonna prep, you're gonna deliver a couple weeks. Ortho, you're gonna start, you're gonna finish. Could be 2 years, could be 3 years, could be 4 years, could be 1 year. I know most cases can be done in less than 2 years, but a lot of times you're dealing with compliance issues too. So unless you're keeping a super tight rein and handle, and you need to build this into your whole process and procedures. And I have a ton of videos on compliance with Invisalign. Again, other keywords you could look up: compliance, Invisalign, virtual monitoring, Invisalign, because first of all, I would never, whether I was an owner or an associate, I would never start doing Invisalign without having a compliance loop, not only paperwork, and that's something that we have at Straightsmile Solutions. We have some, just some rough drafts of some compliance paperwork that you can take, edit, make your own. You could have your own attorney create compliance paperwork. You can ask your liability insurance if they have compliance paperwork. You want to set up a really airtight compliance loop so that your patients realize, and this is what we used to do in our offices, it's pretty standard in an ortho office in terms of how the processes work, because we deal with compliance every day, right? But it's not at all something that's in a GP office. So, our front desk knows how to talk about it, our doctors know how to talk about it, our back office is just part of what we do, part of our mantra. So we make it crystal clear. Look, this Invisalign case is estimated to be 50 aligners, which is, at 1 week changes, assuming you're doing things as recommended and things go predictably. At most, this is gonna take 12 to 16 months. So if this case goes beyond 18 months, there will be additional fees of X per month. We're just letting you know. So it's really important that you come into your appointments and get this done efficiently. After this date, you can, whether you want to go with Invisalign's expiration dates, I don't recommend that, especially if you're doing 5 years. I think you should create your own. Or some other way. After that, there's going to be additional fees if you're non-compliant with the system, and the non-compliance is gauged by the doctor. So you got to make sure they realize that you're keeping an eye on them. You also need to check in every week, every 2 weeks with your virtual monitoring system. So that means you guys need to provide them and train them up on this. This isn't something that comes standard. You can pay extra for outsourcing systems. Otherwise, Invisalign has their own monitoring system. It's not great. It's really not great. It's kind of clunky, but it's free. So it's called Invisalign Virtual. My personal favorite is one called In-Hand Dental, which is, costs about 100, 150, 200 a month for 30, 40, 50 patients. I think you can do something, a real limited version, might be more like 150. But they give you a dashboard. Patients are going to be prompted to take their pictures at a certain frequency every week, every 2 weeks, every aligner, every other aligner. These photos are going to come to you on a HIPAA-compliant dashboard. You're going to be able to review them. If you're working with a additional orthodontist who's maybe there to help you with your cases, someone like us, Straightsmile Solutions, there's tons of other companies like us that are out there. There's a lot of orthodontists that do this under the table, over the table, just to help you. It can go to them, and you can get all kinds of, give feedback virtually. That really, really helps reduce the revisions and refinements and keeps the patients on track. So I strongly recommend doing that. Anyways, that was a sidebar. So set up your systems, create your accountability loop is the first thing I would do before I even get started, because that's going to make things better for you, the associate, as well as the owner doctor. And if you're the one, a lot of it really depends on who's the one that wants to do it. Is it the patients that are asking, the office is asking, the owner doctor's asking, but he's just not interested, or you, the associate, sees an opportunity, to make additional revenue. You got to realize a lot of owner doctors are going to be hesitant because, again, the billing structure of Invisalign is not friendly, that you have to pay your lab fee up front, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of. But if this is an insurance case, you're going to get paid in drips and drops over 2 years. So that means you're going to be cash flow negative on this case initially. You're going to lose money when you start, unless the patient has paid their portion up front, which very few patients can pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 cash up front. I mean, some can if you're in an affluent area, but the average American cannot. So if you're going to be cash poor, you're going to be in the red from day one, and then eventually it's going to get profitable over time. Well, that's not best business for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people don't want to get into it. Now, I'm going to tell you, the more cases you scan, the more cases you work up, the more cases you sell. And there are some programs, or once you start doing a little more volume, where you can defer those payments for 4 to 6 months. You can ask your Invisalign rep about it. They occasionally have them to get you GPs started. Those are a slippery slope, though. I don't, take them with caution, and we definitely did it in one of our offices, but then all of a sudden you have a $30,000 bill, and if you don't pay it within X amount of time, they're going to shut your account down. You're going to get a big yellow banner, and they're going to stall your accounts. You're not going to be able to do revisions, refinements. It is a hot mess. It has happened to us by accident, because sometimes, you're an associate and you're working with a variety of different owner doctors, and maybe they're not paying the bills for you. So another tip, if you are an associate, you do not use your account. You do not use your account. You use the owner doctor's or office's account. First of all, that happened to me. I was using my account, and I was associating a couple different offices. So they would log in and they would pay their bill, and it was working pretty well, but until they stopped paying their bills. And then all of a sudden I'm getting notifications that I owe money to Invisalign, like legal letters, and they're shutting down my account, and office A is the one not paying their bills, but office B was paying their bills, but I couldn't submit any refinements for either A or B. Now that's a liability for me. Absolutely not. It's under owner doctor's account. Okay, that's number one, hard rule. Not under your account. So if they're saying you go take Invisalign, you do it under your account, that's a hard no. We both go take Invisalign. I'll do the work under your account. Okay, liability just went down exponentially for you, and not only financial, but also the responsibility. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, you need to sit down and take this owner doctor out to coffee and just kind of work through all these talking points. Whose account is it going to be under? How is this going to work? Do you realize that we're going to be cash negative initially on these cases? Who's paying the lab fee? I mean, really, in your contract, your associate contract, it should say on major procedures what you're getting paid and how much of the lab fee you have to pay. It should be no difference between Invisalign and your crowns, Invisalign and your implants, Invisalign and your bridges. So they can't, if you're getting paid 25% production, plus 50% lab fees, maybe that's a little low ball, or 35% production, and all lab fees or whatever, can't be different for Invisalign as it is for other major procedures. Otherwise, that's a no-go on my end, pass, Other thing, the owner doctor needs to know it's going to come in drips and drops. They're going to be cash flow negative initially. If you're getting paid on collections, okay, and especially if you're having to pay part or all of your lab fee, that's a warning sign for you, the associate. Hey, that's great for the owner doctor. But you are gonna be super negative. They're gonna be pulling negative money out of your paycheck to cover this until the patient pays. I would never do collections for an associate, just letting you know. I always did production. I don't wanna be the one chasing after the money. I do the work, I'm gonna get paid. This is not my problem if y'all can't get the money or if you guys didn't set up the systems at the front the right way. Production, okay? But especially with insurance, because it's not going to come for a very, very long time if they even get it at all. And a lot of times it's hard to chase the insurance down, and then you're having to bill the patient for the remaining, but you've already finished the treatment. It's a nightmare, okay? So production. So let's go over that again. We're going to recap. Always in the owner doctor's account, always production. Depending on your amount of production, whether you're getting 35% or 25% should be how much lab fee you're paying. There's offices where I paid the full lab fee. There are offices where I paid half the lab fee. There's offices where I paid, none of the lab fee, but then my production was lower. So that's, kind of like a sliding scale how you do it. It really didn't matter to me, but I expected it to be paid more upfront. So the other question about the production that you need to keep in mind, and this is something that you're just assuming you're getting it on the front end, but you maybe not. Different offices I worked at, recognize the production different ways. Some of them recognized it all as it, upfront. So if we did a start, production was, $6,000, but collections hadn't come in yet. So I would get 35% of that, and then whatever lab fee taken out. So it was a nice plunk. I get $2,000 in my paycheck just for starting the case. That was awesome, right? But they'd also maybe take out $1,000 in lab fees. I'd only get $1,000, but I was okay with that. Now, if there are other offices I worked at where they recognize the production at different intervals. So you need to ask, how is the production recognized? There's other ones where they did 50-50. You'd get 50% of the production at the start and 50% of the production at the finish once you close the case. That's kind of what I recommend that owner doctors do, because what you don't want to do is you don't want some hot gunner associate coming in, starting all kinds of cases, doing crappy treatment plans, and we'll get to that in a minute, that don't even have any thought into them, starting them and then just up and leaving, and going someplace else. And now you, the owner doctor, are now stuck with finishing all these cases, and you already paid your associate all the money. You're never going to be able to get the money back from them once you do it. So just like any other procedure, be it a crown or a bridge, you're not going to give all the production until you deliver, right? Well, same thing with Invisalign. You don't give all the production until the case is finished, the patient has signed off, the doctor has signed off. So that's why I recommend 50-50. So now let's say, for example, case is $6,000 production, you're getting paid, say, 33%. So that's $2,000 production. You're taking out some lab fees, I don't know, 33%, 50%. So now you're getting $1,200 production for that, but it's going to be 50-50. So you're only going to get $600 at the start and $600 at the debut. That means if you up and bail, during treatment and you move to some other office, you're not getting that other $600. The finishing doctor that gets it. That's fair to me. In our office, we're doing third. So we're doing third at the start, third at the midpoint of the treatment, and I guess doctor has to double check to make sure it is indeed the midpoint. Patient is 50% done. It doesn't mean 50% way through the aligners. You have to kind of look at the progress. It's a little bit arbitrary. And another third at the finish. So they're getting even less on the front end, which is good, But this really, if you set up those kind of milestones and pay over time, just like you're getting paid over time, the associate doctor is less likely to be a gunner and start all kind of cases if they're thinking about leaving. So another thing to keep in mind is I've gotten screwed on this, and so has my husband, and I won't go too much into details because he's still kind of dealing with this issue, where verbally it all sounded fine. Yeah, I agree. We'll do third. We'll do half. Of the 33% or of the 30%, yeah, I'll pay half the lab fee. Fine. We got all that worked out, right? Makes sense. The issue was, things happened. He had to, up and leave, whether they are firing you, you decided to leave, whatever. And you need to make sure it's crystal clear and written in writing what's going to happen to those patients, because even though he was a W-2, even though he was an employee, they said this was patient advantagement. They said he had to finish all the cases he started. And it wasn't really, the verbiage really wasn't in the contract he signed, but they had a lot more money than he did at the time. He couldn't even afford the lawyer to fight it, and they were definitely going to go get one. It was enough cases that it was worth it for them just to force him to stay on and finish those cases. So he had to come in once, twice a month for another year or two, and still not even, he could still, get paid as he finished the cases, but it definitely wasn't worth his time. And he said, had he known, he would have never started any cases, because he didn't realize he was going to have to finish these cases, what if you moved across the country? I've had other ones where they're requiring the associates to pay back the money if they didn't finish the cases, and now they're having to write a check to their employer for $20,000, $30,000 just to leave the practice. So you got to make sure you not only verbally talk through this stuff, but you actually probably want to have an attorney create an addendum to your contract specifically for Invisalign and how this is it happens so often, you guys. People, both owners and employees are talking to me and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea I was going to have to pay this back. Or what am I supposed to do, this associate up and left, and I don't know how to finish these cases. Okay, so you kind of get all the touch points that I'm talking about, things that you should definitely talk about, the accountability loop, how you're going to get paid. It's not just about lab fees, how the payments are coming in, productions versus collection, how it's recognized, et cetera, what happens if I leave early. So another thing that can help, and certainly resources that if you're on my channel, you're able to see all the resources I have, but I have a whole Invisalign playlist. It has over 250, 300 videos. If you watch all those videos, you don't need to take any classes. It's free. I put it all out there. And no, it's not necessarily in a organized order yet. I do webinars. I've got 3 going on this spring and this winter. Some are free, some are $69, depending on who's hosting them. I don't get the money, so that's just them to put it on and give the C. But you know, you can learn a lot from those. You can definitely go through all my videos. You know, what's even better is signing up for our services for a month or two and just helping you on your first load of cases. But I have a fair amount of associates that I work with that are where I'm hired by the owner doctor to help them on their cases, just to make sure it's idealized, because they maybe don't know ortho that well, the owner doctor. The associates don't, they think they know it, but they don't. You know, some of them do now after a year or two, they know it pretty well. You know, and that way the owner doctor feels more confident, because if the associate up and leaves, they know that these treatment plans were at least idealized, so it's really easy. If they have to do a refinement, all they got to do is just say, go back to the previously approved treatment plan, pair it with a new scan. So there's nothing that you don't have to even think about. I mean, obviously you got to know something, but you know, for the most part, you don't have to worry about it, because you already idealized the setup. The patient has already agreed to the setup. You just keep going back to the original plan. You know, and it's just a reboot is all it is. You don't have to go back from scratch and then recreate the Clin Check. It's really fast. So if you do that, then if your associate up and leaves, you already have amazing Clin Checks. All you have to do is just repair it. You know, so yeah, all you need is the accountability loop set up, and that's about it. And anyone can finish those cases. You know, any doctor in your office, even if they have no experience. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are all the things you need to know in terms of being an associate doing Invisalign. I mean, nothing wrong with that. And my suggestion is you get yourself trained up, you get the confidence going. And I certainly would never do it in an office without an iTero. They have to have an iTero, or they have to have an easy way to outsource to an iTero. Be it a radiology clinic next door or down the street or something like that that has an iTero. But there's just no way to scale this. I wouldn't even get started if I didn't have an iTero. It's going to be a nightmare taking impressions. So if doctor's willing to get you an iTero, if there's a dusty iTero sitting in the corner, bring it up. Say, hey, I would love to start scanning, having every single hygiene patient, every single new patient scanned in our office, so we can start looking for opportunities. The benefit of doing Invisalign on patients is that the teeth get lined up better. Patients have their teeth for a lifetime. They're healthier for a lifetime. The restorations, and big dental work majors turn out better occlusion, better bite, less wear, less breakage to good dental work that we do. You know, crowns, fractures, because we get the bite right. We upright molars so we can place more implants. That's more production. It's really just a win-win for the whole office. It's a win-win for the patients. It's a win-win, you know, only from function-wise and keeping their teeth and being more healthy, but also aesthetically. You know, a lot of times patients don't even know that there's an easy way or not that long way to get some improvement in their aesthetics, and you'd be surprised when you bring it up. Or they may not know that their bite is not a good for a reason, you know, and it's not balanced, and that they're going to have more wear on one side than the other. They're going to get abfractions, attrition. They're more likely to get teeth pulled later, fractured teeth, things like that. And when you bring it up to them, a lot of times they're like, heck yeah. You'd be surprised the more you educate your patient as to the benefits. And you don't want to make it salesy, like you should get Invisalign. You know, you just say you should straighten your teeth. Here's one way to straighten your teeth. We do offer this in office, but we're also happy to refer you out to an orthodontist. If you say it that way, it doesn't sound like you're being salesy, like you're trying to make money. All you're trying to do is help the patient. And that's the direction you need to go with your education and your sales. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Do check out the rest of the videos in my channel for more education, and sign up for our aligner and Invisalign training courses coming on this winter and this spring. I think the next one is January 31st, and we've got one on February 28th and one in the middle of April. The April one is the free one. All right, thanks.